What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Young Guns podcast. The Toronto Maple Leafs finally got their stuff together. They are trending upwards. And looking back at the start of the season where it looked disastrous, we made a video about how changes were coming. They had to trade a certain players, maybe a coach change, GM change. Now, all of that, throw it out the window because Toronto is back on top. And we have to thank but individuals in particular, Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov, two guys who a lot of people doubted at the start of the season because Samsonov never really established himself as a starting goaltender and he was very inconsistent with Washington. And Matt Murray, who is dealing with a lot of injuries, um, also, his play was not on par to what it was when he was with the Pittsburgh Penguins when he won the two Stanley Cups. So there was a lot of questions there in terms of why did Dubas acquire these guys? Why did you let go of Jack Campbell, who is not having a good season whatsoever in Edmonton? So now it seems that Dubas is right and everyone else who doubted him is wrong. And today we're going to be talking about how good Samsonov and Murray have been in this stretch. And not only that, but we have Mitch Marner to thank, who just recently set a franchise record in terms of consecutive points in a row. So that's still going on as well. And yeah, as of right now, you look at the two goalies. They had two back-to-back shutout wins this past week. Also, Samsonov is the ninth different Leafs goalie to record a shutout since 2017, 2018. So obviously you could see there's been a lot of goalie changes in the organization. So what are your thoughts on Samsonov and Murray, exceeding expectations, Luca?
Yeah, I mean it's been a real big surprise, I think, for a lot of people, and including myself. But I think it's must be a sign of relief for the Leaf fans, and I think, one of the things that we spoke about prior to making this video, and even in the last video that we made about the Leafs, is that we believe that Samsonov had the potential to potentially be good, but the big question mark was going to be whether or not Matt Murray was going to live up to that expectation, and I think that both of them have exceeded expectations tremendously. Samsonov is playing like one of the best goaltenders in the league. He's playing like a goalie that Washington hoped he was going to become, and then didn't become that. And obviously Matt Murray as well is going back to prime Matt Murray from 2014, 2015. And I think that this is honestly really good for the Leafs because at the end of the day, there isn't a clear cut number one starting goaltender for this team. Both of them have played 10 games each. One of them is 8-2. The other one is 7-1-2, with a .926 save percentage on Matt Murray and a 933 on Samsonov. They both have a shutout each. I think they've done really well, but I think what's been even more impressive in all of this is that it's not just a question of the Leafs are playing well. It's a question of their top guys are performing. You got Marner, you got Matthews, you got Nylander all performing, Tavares as well. But not only that, they're dealing with injuries. And so that's what makes this success for the Leafs so far in the regular season even more impressive than what it is because Matt Murray, like everybody said, they brought him in from Ottawa, and there was talk about his injury, and then he dealt with an injury early on in the year, and he missed some time, and he's come back and he's looked really really good. And same with Samsonov, he missed some time due to injury. He came back and he's looked really really good as well. So I think for the Leafs, this has been a really good start to the year for them. And I think for the Toronto Maple Leafs, there's a lot to be excited about. The only question that I have with the Leafs is that although this is looking good, we've seen this before from Toronto in the regular season. We've seen this before where they go dominant and they're one of the most dominant teams in the regular season. So as much as yes, there's a lot of impressive things to be looked at with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and their goaltending has been fantastic, and I think it will continue to be. This is a question where I'm high on the Leafs in the sense that I believe that they can get over what they have to get over. But um, to me, regular season, I'll be honest with you, doesn't mean anything for this team. And I think even for Leaf fans to some extent as well, just because, yes, as much as it feels good to be where they are, they need to prove it where it matters most. And we've seen this from the Leafs before, where they've had dominant regular seasons, they've been one of the best teams in the NHL, and then they choke when it matters most. So I just think that in terms of goaltending and where they're at, it's really an encouraging sign to see Matt Murray and Samsonov doing what they're doing. And I think it's really good that at least midway through the season that they've played this well. And I'm curious to see how they do to continue the year because there's still about what 3-4 months left in the actual season. They've only played 30 games. There's still another 55, 57 to go. So like, it's a little bit of an interesting situation, and we'll see how that plays out for them for sure.
So, my take on Samsonov right now, okay, is, you look at the Washington Capitals, how, they were just tired of this whole duality between Samsonov and Vanacek, who was going to be the starting goaltender, and no one stepped up to the plate. So they got rid of both of them. Samsonov was let go. He wasn't given a qualifying offer, so he became a UFA, and Vanacek was traded to New Jersey. As of right now, Vanacek, okay, is posting a 2.30 goals against average, and Samsonov is posting a 1.88. And you look at the top 10 list, not even one Washington Capitals goalie is there. So, in a sense, maybe it's because of the organization, they needed a change of scenery. Maybe this is a wake up call for them. I don't know what the case is in terms of how well they've been playing, but you know I just do believe that, Washington kind of feels somewhat of regret now, especially that they're both very young. Samsonov, second ranked in goals against average, and Matt Murray with 2.50, tied for ninth right now. So they're top 10 goalies right now. And if you look at um, the save percentage, they're in the top five, both Toronto Maple Leaf goalies. Who would have thought that Toronto Maple Leaf goalies would have been this good? Save percentage for Samsonov ranked second, 0.933, and Matt Murray ranked fourth at 0.926. So, I mean, anyone who ever had doubts for this goalie tandem, just like throw it in the trash right now because Matt Murray was traded with a 2023 third round pick and 2024 seventh round pick to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um and the Senators all had to they received future consideration they received future considerations, and they retained 25%. So you're saying that a top 5 goalie in the league, not only did you fetch him, but you also fetched 2 picks as well. So for me, Dubas, looking back at that deal, it's a clear win now. I don't remember what I said initially when we did the trade breakdown, but I mean, it's a steal. And sure, his contract is not the best, but if he continues playing like this and up until his contract expires in 2024, 2025, when he's a UFA, you know, this is an absolute steal. In terms of Samsonov, he's a restricted free agent. He has one more year left, and he's going to be an RFA in 2023, 2024. And both goalies under 30 years old. Murray is 28, Samsonov is 25. So if they do end up losing one of these goalies and they don't want to continue this, you know, um, duality in terms of splitting games and having a 1A 1B scenario, which we've seen is kind of like the new modern age of goaltending nowadays, to have two legit starting goaltenders that are going to split the season, not just one guy to rely on and just like your average Joe backup goalie. um I think one of them is going to want to be a backup starter essentially, so he might go to another team. But as of right now, we're not thinking about that. As of right now, both these goaltenders, if they continue on this pace, could legit get votes in the Vezina conversation, and that's pretty astonishing if you ask me. And
Yeah,
you know, you look at Jack Campbell, who's had good stretches. People spoke about him about getting votes, but he would ultimately crash and burn. He wouldn't be able to
I
play
think
consistently. So
I'll be honest with you, and like, I don't want to be that guy, but I just think that like it's too early to put either one in the Vezina conversation. I'm going to tell you why. So the Leafs have played, I believe it's 29 games this season or close to it, about 26, 27. I don't know the exact number, but close to that. And both goalies have played 10 games. Now, they've looked good in those 10 games. They've looked fantastic in those 10 games, but I want to see a bigger sample size. And I know that it's early and it's the start of the year, but like I said, this is a team that's only really played 30 games into the season. We're a quarter of the season through. You know, there's still it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward from here, but not only moving forward from here, going into after the Christmas break, because after the Christmas break is when it becomes a really interesting situation, because then teams start analyzing what they want to do for the playoffs, and who they want to add and not add and whatever. And I think that for Matt Murray and Samsonov, if they can continue this type of performance going into like February, March, and they're still being those consistent, 925 goaltenders and 933 goaltenders, then yeah, we can definitely have the conversation of them being in the Vezina conversation. But as for right now, I just think that because of the sample size that they've had, and yes, they've played well. I'm not taking anything away from it. They've been fantastic, both of them, and the Leafs have benefited a lot from them. I just think the 10 games for either goaltender is just too little of a sample size
Yeah,
for
that's a
us
valid
to
point. That's a valid
for
point.
us to consider them Vezina votes. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm not saying they haven't played like it. I'm just saying that let's see what they do come February, where the season matters most, and you've gotten more than majority of the way through the season, and then we'll be able to really analyze it and say, okay, you know what? Both these guys have shown they're capable of being the best tandem in the NHL, but not only
Yeah,
that, they're capable of potentially even winning the Vezina. Which, you know what? For a guy like Matt Murray, and I think it's more impressive from Matt Murray than it is from Samsonov, because Samsonov, we had this expectation when he got drafted by Washington that he was going to turn into this goalie eventually. But I think for Matt Murray, it's more surprising just because, the last 2 years that he had in Ottawa, he struggled a lot. And there was a lot of question marks about whether or not, he was ever going to turn back into the goalie that he was when he was in Pittsburgh that won 2 Stanley Cups. And so far, it looks like Toronto's getting that goalie. And if they do get that goalie, then I think they're comfortable not only dealing with this, moving forward for the rest of the season, but they may have a goalie that is so hot that may go into the playoffs and do what Matt Murray has always done when he's been in the playoffs,
and that's what
and
they
that's be
need.
dominant.
That was my next question. Can either or be a pivotal part to their success
Yeah,
in the playoffs to finally get them over the
I
hump and
think
past the first round?
I think Matt Murray, to be honest, is probably your guy in the like. I think right now, honestly, it's still early to say. But if I were a team figuring out my lineup going into it, I would put Matt Murray in just because the
Of
2 Stanley Cups
experience,
that he
yeah,
has
yeah, what he's
and
done.
whatever. But like I said, if he plays the way he's been playing lately, the Leafs have every chance to do whatever they have to do. And look, I'll be honest, I've eaten my words about it when they made the trade at the beginning, laughing, saying that Matt Murray wasn't going to turn into the goalie that he was, and he's been playing well. But like I said, I don't want to be, I don't, not that I don't want to jump on the bandwagon, but I just want to be, especially if if you're Leaf fans as well in general. I think it's just okay to be cautious and just be happy where the team has
Yeah.
progressed and how
There's
well
a
they
lot to be
progressed.
proud of, essentially,
That's it.
a lot, and, looking at this team, 29 games of the season, ranked 3rd overall, especially with the shaky start they had. 42 points, a record of 18, 5, and 6, and there's 53 games left to play. Let's see what happens moving forward. But
Yeah.
as of right now, they're in the same conversation as Vegas, Dallas, Winnipeg, New
Yeah, they're one of the
Jersey,
best
and
teams in the league.
Boston. So, this is awesome. Toronto's always been a fantastic team come regular season. Let's see if this translates into the playoff conversation. So we'll see what happens. But very optimistic in terms of where this is heading for Toronto. I hope Toronto fans are excited too. We'd like to hear your comments in the comment section below. If you haven't already, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with any doubters of Matt Murray, Samsonov, or the Toronto Maple Leafs. And if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, share this with your fellow fan base. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the next episode of the Young Guns podcast.